Bonjour mesdames, messieurs. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Merci. Je voudrais m'excuser auprès de tous les francophones dans la salle. J'avais toute intention à vous parler tout en français, mais la répétition de mon petit exposé a fait en sorte que le français était beaucoup plus long et j'allais déborder le temps. Donc, je suis désolée, mais je vais continuer en anglais. Tous mes excuses, je peux répondre aux questions en français. Good morning, everybody. I was just telling our French friends that if I speak in French, I will go way too long because the French language is much more flowery. So I'm going to continue in English. What I'm going to do today is a bit different than what you've been listening to. I think that you will hear as I share this little story with you that the Football United program carries much of the theoretical inspiration that you've heard referred to yesterday and earlier this morning. So I'm going to give you sort of an overview of a living experience of an evolution of a program which started with one sort of idea, and as the program developed with the participants and the people engaged in running it, it's sort of what we call an organic development of something which started out very small and has reached quite large proportions, both in its scope and its impact, which is what I'd like to share with you. So, just to give a bit of background, the Football United program was inspired by many elements of my own life. You look in the picture there, you see me a bit younger with a very small boy and some flags. When I lived in France in 1998, France won the World Cup. And this victory was an astounding experience for me as well as the entire country. At that time, France was going through quite a lot of racial disturbance, and the victory of what was a very multiracial team at the World Cup that France was hosting was something that transformed the country for quite a number of years. I went to the Champs-Élysées after the victory parade. There were tens of thousands of people all squished together of all background, all race, just in euphoric joy. And I was struck by the power that something like a game could have to move so many people in such a way. When I moved to Australia in 2002, I got the chance to work in post-conflict reconstruction through health and health systems. And I was desperately trying to get health promotion into all of this. And I was realizing that in a situation like that, health is not the first priority of people. What's the priority is rebuilding their communities. And I was thinking that really a common passion was something that they needed. And it wasn't health, unfortunately, as much as we would all love to think it would have been. So that also sensitized me to what a situation of a refugee actually is all about. The trauma, the heartache, the destabilization, the loss of family, the loss of a home, and it also taught me about what it's like to be a refugee settling in a new country. And at the moment, Australia was going through, this was about 2003-04, Australia was going through a situation where we were welcoming many, many refugees from across different parts of the world. And there were a lot of rumblings about this. This was not necessarily something that general Australia was all that happy about, mostly, of course, as you can imagine, through ignorance and misunderstanding. And so I started thinking, this is something that we need to take a look at. So I started looking at the settlement of humanitarian refugees and newly arrived immigrants in Australia and in a country which is supposed to be a warm and welcoming experience for these people who have been through so much trauma and so much distress. And I started looking at the challenges they were facing. And it's not just the language, it's not just the cultural and society being new, but it's how these all interplay and actually, rather than welcome, can be extraordinary blockages. And these can result in very, very traumatic and emotional experiences, which particularly with youth, particularly with middle high school age and older youth, can result in many, many situations of what we call disaffectation and disengaging with society rather than engaging with it. So as I was learning about this whole situation, I was thinking back to my situation of football. And everywhere I went in all my travels across the world, what did I see? That little round ball, that football. We call it soccer in North America, perhaps, but football across the world. Anywhere you go in the world, you're going to see kids and young people playing with either a football, or if they don't have a football, a can or a rock or anything to kick around. So I started to think, this power I witnessed in France, this phenomena I see all over the world, what could we do with it? Maybe this could help bridge this feeling of non-welcome or disaffectation with young refugee, newly arrived immigrants, but also maybe bridge it with the people in Australia that are actually playing this game. So I started looking at this idea of sports and its contribution to, now in theory, sports can do all those things you see on the slide. It theoretically can foster social cohesion, racial harmony, etc. It can also provide avenues for empowerment across all the different facets that is within a sport: playing, refereeing, managing, coaching, etc. And particularly can provide a really powerful platform for mentoring, which is something that we figured was going to be really important to helping these young people settle, feel good, and build their new lives. However, if as I was looking through this development, there are a lot of critiques that are coming out about sports. Not the least of which is that when you're in a sporting situation, there's a winner and a loser. So this competition can actually be very negative, particularly something that is such a passion, which football is really, I don't know how many of you are football fans out there, but the passion within this game is something fairly extraordinary. So you really need to pay attention to what you are doing, and you really need to make sure that what you are doing is not doing harm, but doing good, which is one of the phenomena we learned about when we were looking at our peace building work, which was you don't just rock into a situation. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this idea of making sure you really know what's happening, being very careful in the approaches that you're using. Now, this slide that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is one of the examples of how we've been working with the young people across the whole of this program to actually engage them in everything that we're doing. And so this slide is actually the result of one of the workshops we had about how can we make sure that this game we love remains a game we love, remains a positive force. And the young people came up with all those criteria there. And this is something that every participant gets a little card with the fair play rules, with the respect and the trust. And again, it all came from the young people working with us in the project. So this all combined together to build a program using football to help bring people together, to help provide opportunities for young people. And the way we're actually doing it, football is the common base, but it has become the base from which we work to do a whole lot of other development opportunities with young people and with the adults that are, how do you say, encadrés, that are working with them and supporting them in their surroundings. So as Louise and others have highlighted, this is just one common base, and we have to be careful about how we're doing it. So each site that we are working in is different. We're now working across 3 different states in Australia, as well as 15 different sites in the Sydney area. Every single site is adapted to the context in which the kids and the community and the school is placed. So it's a very intensive process of working within the school system, working within each site to figure out how are we going to use this common platform, this common passion to actually provide development opportunities. So there is the whole area of the work in which we're doing, but funnily enough, we have come to be having a great impact in the advocacy across the country. One of the things we noticed, we started working out to welcome refugee youth and to provide a bridging and a youth development opportunity. But as we were working, now many of you are probably from North America. The sports system in Australia is not set up like it is in the North America. School sports is very aléatoire. It's very non-consistent, sometimes non-existent. And if young people want to engage in a sport, mostly they have to go to a community-based system, which is a very inequitable system. So as we're moving forward, we're noticing all sorts of gaps, equity gaps, of access to sports and access to the opportunities that sports can provide. So we have now become a very strong lobbying force, one, for meeting these gaps in equity, two, for reinforcing opportunities through the school system, and three, for highlighting the racial problems in this very multicultural society and promoting an approach which has been very successful in addressing these racial issues and bringing kids together. And you'll see that in a minute. And of course, as any good health promotion endeavor would attempt to do, we work across a number of different levels of multi-sector and multi-sectoral collaboration. So in this slide here, you see examples of our long-term programs. We dabbled with some community-based programs, and we do have some, but mostly we're working in a school setting. We started doing this because we were hearing of incidences of racial bullying within schools. We were noting the lack of access to sports, and as such, we figured the school would be a very good platform. What is really interesting is this school setting has provided the platform for so many things. We started out working through football, but through football, we've branched into a whole series of other incidences, and Kimberly noted two different kinds of approaches yesterday, which were all about the holistic situation of a person. And what we call life skills is a way to address a whole lot of issues that these young people are working with, and a whole lot of, through football and other training, we work on a leadership, a management, both self and group type of a situation. But we've come into working with young people in communication. We've come into working with young people through the issues that they want to address. And football is the vehicle, the passion that brings them all together and enables them to connect with each other. And the leadership and the other kinds of training that we offer to the youth have also contributed to the sustainability of our approach, because the older youth are now taking on the programs, developing new programs, and managing programs across all of the different sites that we're working with. So it's quite an exciting situation to look at as far as keeping the program going. Now, one of the other things that we found that's been happening is the engagement that the participants are actually having within their communities. And this picture you see here was the 100th anniversary of celebrating Women's Day, which is what we called it in Australia. And all those young girls that you see in those pictures have all been trained as youth leaders within the Football United program. They all run programs for primary schools in their areas, and they came, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women and men and boys and girls at this big festival. And these young women and girls actually ran football gala day for this whole big group of people. So we have the young people engaging in long-term in their schools and in their communities, and developing a number of different activities across their communities. So of course, as Louise, has mentioned, there are a number of ways of measuring the impact. We were very, very lucky, and this also contributed to our sustainability, by the way, 3 years ago to get an Australian Research Council grant, which enabled us to see into the future and to follow our program across 3 years. And in a very case control, very, how would you say, research appropriate manner. Of course, the processing, what are we doing and how are we doing it, is very important. So we have a system set in place that we're monitoring every single program. We have monthly meetings of the youth coaches, the adults that are encadrés, that are working with them, supporting the program, and our coaches and our football directors, wherein we all come together. We do continuing training to make sure that we're continuing to support the development of new types of activities, and also that to make sure that the young people have a chance to engage in where they're going with the program. Every quarter we get these tracking sheets which will tell us the participation, the engagement, where the kids are from, etc. I have to go quickly because I have something really special to share with you. As you can see on the slide, we're making an incredible impact compared to non-Football United schools as far as feelings of social engagement, positive appreciation of people from cultures other than your own, a significant reduction in peer-related problems. And the next couple slides, I'm going to show you. Melvin is one of our youth leaders. He started out as a participant. He became trained as a coach. He went with us to the World Cup where we got a special invitation last year. He's now managing 2 programs for us. He graduated from high school last year. And so these are his own words, because before we went to the World Cup, he had to give a presentation to his community. The kids you see in this picture are from of the most disadvantaged schools in the Sydney area. And they came together with some of the kids from the other schools, and the quote speaks for itself. I haven't been able to share with you the extent of the impact. However, the reasons that you see on this slide are some of the reasons that we've been able to have such an incredibly positive impact. The passion that has brought everybody together. The kids come through their passion for football. The adults come through their passion for working with youth, for believing in youth, and believing in the power of working with them to help change the future of our society. All those other things contribute to the engagement. Before I end, participation is huge. I started this out as my PhD process, and I was really almost anal about participatory processes, but it really came true to be something very, very powerful. Before I show you the very last little tidbit, I just wanted to put up, these are some quotes from the qualitative pieces in our ARC. I really think they speak for themselves. One of the things I love is when one of the participants said, "My anger is all gone and I'm not going back." That young man was falling off the schooling and was almost ready to drop out of school, and we started working with him. Now he's now school captain, a leader in his school and his community, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And now I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to show you a tiny little video clip which has been made across the 5 years of little bits of films that we've taken in different parts of the project, and it's actually been compiled by the kids. So you'll notice that the sound system is maybe not as professional as it could be, but we're all still learning in that aspect. So if our friends in the back could just hit the video button, I hope you enjoy it and see a little bit of the power of that we've been feeling through this program. Thank you.